Noah Samsen, friend of the channel, made a video recently on the user math and on whether or not promiscuity is destroying society. Okay, so enough on whether or not the Supreme Courts are destroying society. I want to know if women have done enough destroying society. Let's get into it.
You've now entered the Noah Samsen YouTube channel, which means you are now Noah Samsen YouTube video maxing, which is when you watch my videos. Hi.
Try not to get scared.
My favorite subject in school was math, and my other favorite subject in school was Ho, which is why my favorite YouTube channel online that I found is called Ho Math. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm assuming it's my favorite because it combines the best of both worlds of my favorite things. I was never all that good at math, but Ho's, on the other hand, I was also not good at that either, so we're gonna try and learn a thing or two today. Now.
We might be stuck in a pattern of civilizational collapse, and it's because our relationships are not as strong as they used to be. This video is a long overdue answer to the question, why is promiscuity bad? The answer is kind of complicated.
Alright, sounds like this guy's got it figured out. Let's hear what he has to say.
Let's start with this. Why would promiscuous behavior, as pictured here, cause a collapse of civilization? I put together this map. It's originally created by Ken Wilber. This is just my easy to read.
People in government being greedy and listening to lobbyists and making all of their decisions to benefit the richest and wealthiest people, or some women having a lot of sex. Which one of these is destroying society? It's got to be the hose. It's got to be the sex for sure. For sure.
Version.
I'm glad he did that because it is easy to read. How does it feel from the Chinese? Yeah, I got it. Yeah, good. I can't lie. I like this guy's format. I like the narration and the pencil. And the drawings. I think it's fun. As far as the ideas themselves, you know, TBD.
Developmental psychology, how people's minds develop individually from birth until wherever you stop, and how that affects the development of society and culture. And over here, there's this little grid that shows the individual mind and culture and individual behavior and society.
This chart seems cool. You know, it's some kind of like psychological, philosophical framework for the world. He's going to connect it to sucking and fucking, I'm assuming, and I'm excited for that.
Society, which we depend on for everything we have, is based on the way that we relate to each other, which is falling apart very quickly, due in large part to acceptance of promiscuous behavior. Here's a bunch of little heartbreaks and lower relationship strength.
Okay. Jumping around a bit there, you know, there's a city, and then we need everyone to be dating and good at dating and happy and married. And if not, just city destroyed. City turned to poo-poo doo-doo. Is that how it works? I'm actually not sure. If everyone in the city is no longer married and they're all swiping away and doing all this stuff with...
That's what I'm saying, Z. This isn't the math behind getting hosed. Clearly, I'm not learning what I need. Can't uppercut thing for the 6 months. The crazy part is that the only people that are saying this are having no sex. Zero. Yes. He's referencing Ken Wilber, you know, the guy working for Daily Wire and shitty sci-fi writer. Great source. Excellent source. Clearly the best source. Society is collapsing because my wife left me and took the kids.
Holes. Does the city just explode? Are there any other factors as to the stability of society? I don't know what dap them up means.
Do you know, by the way, why society is falling apart or whatever, according to these dudes? It's because now that women can make money in the workforce, you kind of need to provide more than just a paycheck to be a husband and father. That's why relationships are failing more often. That's why. It's just that it's harder to exploit women. And historically, if women couldn't work, you kind of only needed to provide a paycheck and like exist mostly. Now, when people are living paycheck to paycheck and people need dual income households to live, women don't want to be in relationships where they have 2 children to take care of. Their literal child and also their husband that doesn't do any household labor ever. which is a crazy concept, by the way. By the way, what an insane concept.
If that's referring to dapping up like that, then I'm a slut. Because
yeah, back in the day, providing for your family and not being violently abusive all the time was the only qualifier to be a good husband. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just like think about it logically, right? My sister's husband is exactly like this still. I mean, just think about it logically. Would you rather have one income where you take care of yourself and your kid, or would you rather have one income because you were convinced to stay at home and take care of the kid? Or dare I say two incomes, but you're still doing the majority of the labor? It's who wants to clean up after two people instead of one? It's just, and then have a gap on your CV/resume. Yeah. Yeah. The West has fallen because a certain group of people are not having enough sex. I'm not part of that group, I swear. Yeah, like, I don't understand. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't. What? Huh?
my friends.
If we remain unable to understand each other, we tend to do what we want instead of thinking about what's right.
What is, hold on. Senses see here, man bad. Project fear onto man. He's making me feel this. Control spirits. What can I do about this situation? Ladies, is
This dude's penmanship is terrible. Oh my God, dude. If you're going to put your penmanship to be viewed by the masses, can you work on it a little bit? Jesus. Oh my God. It's just a little bit of work. Just a little. I can't even read some of this shit.
making me feel this.
If you're insisting on not printing it out on paper and making it look nice, can you at least make it a little bit more legible? Jesus. What is this onto? Christ. Better than mine. Looks like my handwriting. Yeah, but you, I hope, much like myself, understand that your penmanship is bad. And when you have to turn in assignments, you don't use your penmanship. You type it in Word and you print it out. No, this is authentic.
Control spirits. What can I do about this situation? Ladies, is this what happens when you see a man bad on, I think that's supposed to be a phone? Is this what happens? I'm not that smart of a guy. I don't know all this philosophy shit. If someone could help me understand what's going on here, let me know.
When people are allowed to do whatever they want, it degrades
Also, that's crazy knives.
us from this stable model of courtship and relationship formation to this unstable one.
Ah, there it is. The chart, the hypergamy chart. Back in the day, each boy got one girl, and now a few boys get many girl, and some boys get no girl. This chart.
Fasting for the 18 months. This has strong, I'm 14 and this is deep vibes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why, but you kind of look like you have bad penmanship. My penmanship is not good. My penmanship is not good, but I tried to I forced myself to work on my penmanship as a teenager. When I was I would say when I was 16 or 17, I was like, I can't, this is not acceptable, dude. This is not, I can't, no one can read my handwriting. No more penmanship. We need pen womanship. Okay. And I took out the the books you give to pre-K students and kindergarten students and first graders. And I sat there and did my best to make everything as uniform as I could. And I just practiced that. And every time I wrote, I tried to practice writing in a way that looked legible. And over time, you kind of just learn how to write better. If you just force yourself to write a certain way, that new way just becomes your standard.
It doesn't even track with like real world relationships. Statistically speaking, on average, most couples aren't that far apart in attractiveness. It's usually pretty similar. I think this is dating app thinking, because dating apps are a total meat fest. It's like 80% guys on some of them. That means most guys below a certain level of attractiveness are not going to get as many matches.
Most of the women get played and dumped over and over, and these guys get no attention.
Just by the numbers, you know. There's a few problems with that narrative on its own, but let's just assume that's what he's applying to this graph here. That's, you know, there's people are also off those apps, and most women are actually off those apps. If you're one of these 5 and under guys, which I think this content aims at you. It kind of grabs you by the neck and says, this is what they're doing to you. Dating apps suck shit if you don't ever get a match and so have to start paying and then still don't get a match. It's a bad cycle and it's extremely exploitative, and the apps are keeping you there for a reason. For my fellow sub-fivers, go to the gym, smile more, you are just not hygiene. Go on TikTok, look at what the fashion people are doing, try and emulate that. Don't go crazy, you know, don't go from Captain American t-shirt to the Met Gala. There's gonna be a learning curve there. Mew, of course, find a chew toy. Find something you like doing, get really good at it. Lastly, and most importantly, build community. If you have people around you that'll help you out, that'll teach you things that you'll learn from, that you can support and provide friendship for, and even making friends with girls, and then you meet a mutual friend and it's a cute person that likes you back, and then boom, you're off to the races.
And that makes everyone unhappy, and it also is really bad for stable marriages that produce children. And this model is only possible when people believe I can do whatever I want and you can't judge me.
She just wants to go for Chad. Oh, she wants to suck and fuck Chad and ride on the carousel. I'm getting mogged right now. I feel like this is a very oversimplified way of looking at relationships, especially the term stability. You know, what does that mean? Stability for whom? Like, just being married isn't necessarily a sign of stability. You can be married and have a shit marriage and be really unhappy and your kids right up, even though you're still together. There's also one other slightly tiny factor, which is back when this model was the number one, as in, you know, certain laws made it so that you had to kind of stick with that shit. Divorce laws, women can't work, relying on the husband for the income. Times were a little different back then. Back then, you could get a penny from the corner store and go on and put a down payment on a house. But those days are no more. Now all they do is eat hot chip and lie in a studio apartment. $10,000 a week. Shit is expensive. One source of income, not gonna really cut it. Now that women be working and shit, there becomes less of a stability in a marriage that is necessitated on an exchange of resources, because it's not enough, and now people got options to make it so that they have enough.
Modern people believe that the world is made of individuals. It is actually made of relationships, in the same way that a pile of bricks is not a building. In order for the building to work, the bricks have to be arranged in a certain way, they have to be connected, and once the bricks start saying, I don't want to be part of a building anymore, I want to do me, then the building starts decaying, and then the other bricks say, well, if you're not
people are exactly like houses.
doing your job, then I won't do my job. And we go from a building to a pile.
I get the metaphor, right? Real simple. Bricks, building. No bricks, no building. Is every person that's ever worked a job and contributed to society been dating a sexy, hot wife or hubby? No. It's a crazy leap. You know, I don't know how else to put it. Maybe he'll get more specific as we go. But
a big part of this decay is the sexual revolution, which is actually just a decay. It's reverse
I love
development.
this chart available on Linktree/H0math. Yes, thank you for letting me know. I definitely want to read all this garbage that you cooked up.
We are going from higher levels down to lower ones. This is not moving beyond the rules, it's just getting rid of them.
We used to be a country. And then everybody started showing their ass on TikTok. Is this person at a concert? There's people in the crowd. Those look like stage lights. This is a strip club. I get their doodles. I like the doodles. I think they're fun. I don't know what the fuck's going on in this picture other than the lady with the red flag and her ass out.
All cultures have to grow through these levels. You can't skip stages. And when a culture develops from this low impulsive stage to the rules and roles stage, they come up with strict social norms, and they eventually grow to the achiever stage, which is like corporate, keeping up with the Joneses, and eventually into this sensitive, individualistic hippie stage where people start saying, hey man, everyone's like unique and we should all do what we want, bro.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and try and decode this entire thing. He's laying it out really thoroughly, but connecting it to promiscuity? I don't know, man. It just feels very sensationalist, and like the girls having sex is just being shoehorned into this. We're only identifying one variable here.
We have known this for a long time. Back in the 12th century, some guy named Salahuddin Ayyubi, liberator of Jerusalem, that's probably debatable, but he sounds important. He said, if you want to destroy any nation without war, make adultery or nudity common in the young generation. Sound familiar?
I knew this quote was coming, man. I knew this quote was coming.
They also thought that you could remove diseases with holy water. They also thought leeches solved all your problems. They also thought washing your hands and washing your ass and just showering was sinful. They also thought that the earth was in the center of the universe. Like, I don't know how to tell you this, but they were dipshits. I don't know how to tell you this. I apologize. They were kind of fucking stupid. Low key, on a lot of fronts, they were kind of stupid.
This is what they pull out. They pull this one out every time. Some OnlyFans girl goes viral for doing a silly clip. Oh, see, this is what they were talking about, man. This is what they said. And now the shit's gonna burn down very soon. Ayyubi shouldn't have put it past us that we'd still destroy society with war. Because that's, you know, who knows what's gonna happen. Could be nukes from Russia. It could be a puppy cosplay kink on your Instagram Reels timeline. Either of these things will do it. We just have to wait and find out.
I just spoke to Rudyard Lynch of What If Alt Hist about this. Check out his channel. And he explained to me that history does not work like this. It's not, feminism was invented yesterday and now everyone's going to be happy forever.
That is what feminists...
That's exactly, yeah, that's what me as a feminist, that's what I tell people. You know, you're oppressed, but then we get feminism and then everyone happy now. That's correct. That is what feminist theory says. Just read any feminist theory, and that's actually the first sentence of every book that talks about feminist theory, actually.
I've always said is that feminism will be everyone's happy, and then that's it. Feminists have famously been saying that. Bell hooks, infinite feminism equals infinite happiness. Look it up. There's a narrative here that all feminists are telling everyone to just go suck, regardless of the consequences, but that's very much not the case. There's a lot of different feminists and a lot of different feminist schools of thought, and many have been critical of sex positivity for a long time in a variety of ways. We just recently saw the Bumble ad campaign. In an attempt to get more women on the app, they said, hey, quit being a damn prude, all right? Celibacy isn't the answer. There's quite a bit of feminist backlash for something like that, because that's bad, you know? Horseshoe theorying sex positivity back into pressure, cultural stigma around your own choice to abstain from sex. Alice Capel did a great video on that. You should watch that. Recently read an essay from Farha Khalidi, Confessions of a Femcel, Why I'm a 24-year-old Female Virgin. It's a great article, and it's one of many critiques of the idea that everything about hookup culture is great and empowering, and it's all good, which is the characterization H0math is applying to feminists and the sexual revolution. And it's a reduction. It's not actually true. Another example of this is the 4B movement happening in South Korea. Maybe
I kind of want to read that.
Heard about this. Just watch a great video from friend of the show, Elliot, saying about this summary of the story, and can see that Korean women are boycotting heterosexual relationships due to misogyny, intimate violence, and non-consensual porn. So not just because they want to go find Chad and diddle his dungus. This is based on just 29 articles Ground News found reporting on it. So unless you're intentionally diversifying how you stay up to date with the news, there are lots of ways you can miss important stories like this. I can even compare coverage to see that the government of Singapore...
Can I take a look at this? Can we take a quick... Take a quick peek at this. I don't know how long this is. Oh, shit. Yeah, this is how you know it's a feminist. She'd be yapping. Oh, no. Oh, no. Leftism. God, fuck. Hold up. This is for anyone who doesn't know who this is the chick who goes on those like red pill podcasts and clowns some kids.
Well, what about like a girl who is walking around a really shady part of town with her titties out? She could have mitigated her chance of being raped by not doing that, right?
I don't.
Okay, let's go back.
Well, what about like a girl who is walking around a really shady part of town with her titties out? She could have mitigated her chance of being raped by not doing that, right?
I don't see what titties have to do with it. India's like the fucking rape capital, and I promise you they're not walking around wearing this.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying I think it's really dangerous and harmful to even correlate likelihood of rape with outfits, because there's been found to be absolutely zero correlation.
well, like, okay, if we flip it and we say one guy is walking around a really shady part of town with like an expensive watch, don't you think we'll see a correlation between theft?
It's a false analogy because I have a pussy regardless if I'm wearing a baggy t-shirt or not. So as long as they can identify me as a woman, I think my likelihood of rape is the same regardless of whether I'm wearing a plunging neckline or not.
I think you should be able to walk around with your titties out, fucking shaking your
He's getting cooked.
ass, and you should not have to deal with rape. But we're living in the real world. We're not living in the should. We're talking about likelihood, statistics, and probabilities.
The fact of the matter is a slim amount of rapes happen in the ways you're describing. Most rapes are committed by people you know.
Yeah, I know that.
It's not because it's someone you know and they're seeing you wearing a low plunging neckline. That's why it feels like you're using the word responsibility as a shaming tactic, because then you would acknowledge the fact that most rapes aren't happening in the instances you're talking about. So it's why are we fixating on these specific features or behaviors that women are exhibiting that rarely lead to rape? You're more likely to be raped by your boyfriend than you are by a stranger in an alleyway. Are you going to tell them don't have a boyfriend?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I call cooking. Yeah, that's what I call cooking. Let's take a quick peek in this. Confessions of a Femcel, Why I'm a 24-year-old Female Virgin. When I was little, my mom sat me down to have a modest chat about the birds and the bees. The birds, boys will do anything to try and get sex, and the bees, that if I let them, it will ruin my life. Boys will lie to you, cheat on you, cheat with you, kidnap, rape, torture, and kill to have sex, and thus it is crucial that I never be alone with a boy, because the shaitan will enter the room, and that I shriek for help if he ever asks me to take off my pants, because if I let him, blah, blah. And then just like the shit that you get taught in like abstinence only states. If you have sex, you'll have every STD and then you'll explode and die. Yes, perfect. Once you die, it'll be all over because you'll have a sweet moment of rest, but then you'll wake up again at once in a pit of fire forever. My mother gave this gospel to me many times. I asked why she never bugged my brothers with the same spiel, who would slump on the couch watching Jersey Shore and eating mangoes that she cut up into cubes for them. Farha, it's different for boys. I always hated religion. I hated having to sit in the muggy, AC-less mosque, constantly tucking my soggy baby bangs into my hijab. I hated having to wake up before sunrise to gulp down a handful of dates before fasting for the day. Mostly I hated the laundry list of things I couldn't do. No beer, no marshmallows, no short shorts, no pepperoni, no Big Macs, no poker, and no sex. I didn't believe in God, at least not the one that my mom did, not the type that she's supposedly the arbiter of justice, yet puts its thumb down on the scale for women. So I didn't mind breaking my parents' rules. I'd sneak bottles of barefoot into my parents' dry household to guzzle in the garage and pack a mini skirt into my Jansport when I left the house. Breaking the no premarital sex rule was always next on my queue. Purity was the most offensive word in the book for me. I loathed religious obsession with female chastity, and I felt particularly nauseous from the guys around me who would drool over my virginity and say, I bet it's tight, who would mask their fetish with a soft soaping, you have more self-respect than a lot of girls these days, while they themselves try to stick it in every orifice in sight. I was fatigued of guys eager to wax judgmental about sluts while fiending to run through them. That rules for thee but not for me attitude has been the thorough line of every purity culture always during the Middle Ages. Female virginity was the condition for matrimony, while marriageable men slept with and raped droves of women, tagged as whores. The idea of purity is filthier than any conceivable female body count. Today, there is still a bankable and barbaric demand for female virginity. Some women purchase fake hymens that snap and bleed when penetrated. Others sneak razors on their honeymoon to nick their skin while their newlyweds fuck them to convince them of a punctured hymen. Torn hymens aren't even a sign of having had sex, by the way. Many women snap them doing things like horseback riding. If these sort of gimmicks seem needless, consider that in 2002, a 16-year-old girl in London was forced by her father to take a virginity test. After she failed the test, he broke down the door of the bathroom that she barricaded herself in and stabbed her 17 times and slit her throat. 2 days before he killed her, he had received a letter from his community calling his daughter a slut for having a boyfriend. 5,000 girls and women are brutally killed each year by their own family in the name of purity. Another 200 million have been genitally mutilated to ensure their chastity. Purity culture's fetish for violence is worldwide. In 2011, female protesters in Egypt who were arrested, photographed naked, and subject to virginity tests. Those who failed were charged as prostitutes, beaten, and electrocuted. In the U.S., a New York City judge ordered a 15-year-old rape victim to be virginity tested to try and discern whether she had been sexually active prior to the rape. The judge treated the lack of chastity to denote a lack of innocence. Incredible. Incredible. Also within the U.S., some women fall victim to the husband stitch, a vile procedure in which a doctor sutures a woman's vagina after she gives birth with an extra needless stitch to please her husband with a vulva that will feel like a virgin again. This is typically performed without her knowledge and at odds with her well-being. She is now prone to infection, sexual desensitization, and a pelvic floor disorders. So don't ever get duped into believing the West doesn't practice female genital mutilation. Purity is not a virtue, but a faux moral veneer for bloody tyranny over girls and women at every seam of society. There's absolutely zero medical basis for virginity. Even at the social level, people butt horns over what disqualifies a girl from being considered a virgin. At best, it's based on a visceral feeling to an act described rather than any spelling out of logic, let alone biological substrate. Hi, Meerkat. Those who value female virginity, I considered the dullest of the pack. Sometimes I'd stumble into a vapid and viral post telling men, you wouldn't buy a Coke or bottle of chips that wasn't sealed, only marry a virgin. These posts just made me eager to have sex as soon as possible to cull these illiterates out of my marriage pool. Sex positivity had my heart, a stock of feminism that browbeat the pillaging thirst for female virginity out of the culture in favor of women's sexual liberation. Okay, I want to skip through some of this because it's really long and I don't feel like reading all of this. I was having a bit of sex choice paralysis, so I told my friends that they could play Cupid one morning in the dining hall. My friend pointed out a pretty boy at the breakfast bar, dolloping Nutella and whipped cream in the waffle iron. Before I could protest, she flitted over to him. They chatted, then looked over at me while I stared back dumbly. She skipped back, grinning, and told me it was done. I got a new request on Snapchat from a backwards baseball cap wearing Bitmoji. Oh, I accepted it and said, what are you doing tonight? We looked back at him and saw the waffle iron getting smoky and laughed. That night, my roommate slathered me in Gillette, shaved me from ankle to armpit. While I leaned naked against the sink, feeling crabby, I didn't mind being hairy, but she told me it would turn the guy off. I thought all these sex positivity art I saw online, girls, lush and body hair, fat rolls, pimples, but now here I was being primped and plucked for 2 hours. Sex was shifting from a cloying idea now to a tangible act, sobered up by my bare butt, getting goosebumps on our porcelain sink. I leered at myself in the mirror, globbed in shaving cream. I looked like the whipped cream Nutella that hissed inside of the waffle iron. He came over to my dorm room. We shared a leftover bottle of Svedka and a warm quart of cranberry juice. His head was on my bald thigh and his face an inch away from mine. I sort of gawked at him, trying to think of actors that he looked like. I thought it'd make him feel less alien to me. I also kept suppressing this urge to sneeze. I wonder if I should just come clean about being a virgin to him to explain my nerves. My roommate had told me not to and that it would be a turnoff. Plus, I told myself virginity isn't real. He asked me what my major was, that I was undecided, and then we started making out. Next morning, my friends peered into the room to find me alone in bed, spooning my ocean spray. One scoffed, saying they always leave before morning. She then asked how it was. I confessed I didn't go through with it, that I had a bad feeling about it. I wanted to rip the Band-Aid off, at least on paper, but each time the chance unsheathed itself via a cute boy and a case of White Claws, I felt racked by a heavy gut feeling to tap out. I was pissed at my gut. I thought it was a harboring religious residue from my childhood. Did all those stupid Facebook posts get to me? Am I just trying to preserve my Coke fizz? I just don't see the point in fucking anyone right now. What's the point in going your whole college life without having any fun? But frankly, I wasn't seeing much fun in the sex lives around me. Instead, it looked like a spate of sore experiences that carried on way past ripping the Band-Aid off. Zephyr, thank you so much for the Prime for 11 months. Thank you. Damn, these friends suck. Yeah. Oh, wait, these friends kind of suck, low-key. Okay. This is just stories about her friends. While my friend's sexual experiences often felt like a horror movie, my guy friend's sex lives resounded more like a man-child comedy. The perils of college sex for them ranged from groaning that their friends with benefits asked them to be exclusive, so now they have to script a text that feigns emotional care, to regretting banging one girl because they found out has a way hotter friend, to bemoaning that they had to wash their sheets at 1 a.m. because they were coming on her tits, but she fucking moved. For every guy friend I had that lamented a college girl being a defective comrade, I witnessed a female friend in distress over a guy who ghosted them, cheated on or with them, or recklessly transmitted an STI or assaulted them. These stories aren't anomalies, but reflective of a sexual ringer that young women are routinely put through. My friend who was ghosted after sushi, sake, and sex joins the larger number of women that are abandoned by men after a hookup. Ghosting is so baked into the dating scene that most people think it's the normal way to end a relationship. Low-key, I would want to see what the source is on this one. Number 14. Burger King foot lettuce. So brain rotted. Oh my God. I'm totally brain rotted. It's so over. At least I'm not a Nazi, man. I could have immediately went 88 on that. But the first thing that came to mind, you know what it was? Burger King foot lettuce. Oh, God. Okay. Well, now I won't forget which one to go to. All right. Combine this with the fact that 70% of women have experienced love bombing, extreme display of insincere affection. I mean, I kind of get she's not like wrong on some of this, okay? Low-key kind of spitting. I would want to see the source on the ghosting. But like high-key, women ghost about like showing up for a date or like when you're talking to them. Dudes are way more likely, from stories that I've heard, way more likely to ghost after hooking up. All right, let's see. Let's read this. When you start school, they corral the entire freshman body with the classical sexual consent seminar. Consent ought to be enthusiastic and verbal. Ask your partner repeatedly if they're okay and comfortable. The students nod along in a zombified manner. Then RAs toss packets of M&Ms to those who win a round of consent. Kahoot, class dismissed. Sex positivity crowns consent as the chief litmus of a moral or immoral sexual interaction. If enthusiastic consent is achieved, then nothing is off the table at any age. So long as a girl gives a zealous yes, there should be no moral qualms about a teen starting a camgirl account the minute she blows out her candles on her 18th birthday. All enthusiastic yeses are to be toasted as fetes of female empowerment. I agreed with all of this as armchair theory until I actually went to college and observed this supposed liberation up and running. I then felt that the varnished sex positivity that I once defied was now just a wimpish man behind the curtain because the only red light it hoisted of consent didn't adequately thwart any of the wreckage in front of me. For instance, take my friend's sushi date. He didn't violate consent by playing with her sweet nothings and empty plans of future dates only to scamper off before she woke up without so much of the decency to tuck her back in. In fact, she did give an enthusiastic yes. She was thrilled to sleep with someone she connected with so much, and yet he did use her in a way that the consent model tolerates. Under the current cultural canon, fuckboys can run rampant without guilt or much judgment because sex positivity has issued them clearance so long as they simply collect an enthusiastic yes. What I realized in college is that it's not hard to get a teenage girl enthusiastic about saying yes to an adept player bluffing what she wants to hear. And so a young woman's emotions become a playground for guys to experiment on, to love bomb, to manipulate, lie to, ghost, cheat with, cheat on, drown in alcohol in order to reach that pitiful touchstone of yes. The man who raped my friend obviously did break consent, but anyone with a half-working brain could admit to something more horrific took place that night than just my friend not saying yes. A male student felt gratified putting himself inside an unconscious woman that laid on the floor in a dorm room. If I were to ask you what the problem was with necrophilia, you could probably muster up a better answer than the corpse didn't give an enthusiastic yes. Instead, you'd probably point out the sort of derangement that would compel a man to have sex with a woman conscious or unconscious at any cost. I began to understand where my crazy mother was coming from. I mean, I think the idea here is just like, there are some dudes that are huge pieces of shit. Like there are some dudes that are massive pieces of shit. And if you get intimate with one of these dudes or you start becoming friends with or hook up with or whatever, it like taints your experience and perspective on the male sex. Which I think I solved just by being like a really annoying theater kid. And being like a gamer, friendless loser. Like I didn't have these experiences. Like my high school friends were also nerds. My college friends were also nerds, right? They're nerds, dude. Like, so our experience was like, yo, when are we gaming? Later tonight? Sick. And then when I've talked to men, usually I either self-select or they self-select out of each other's pools. You filtered your experiences via being cringe. Yeah, exactly. So like most of the time, if I spoke to a fuckboy, I was just so bored that I wasn't interested anymore. It was like, so like, what do you have any hobbies? Sports. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm busy for the rest of the year and also forever. Sorry. I'm sorry. If the only interesting thing you can talk about is football, I'm just not interested. I'm so sorry. And it's just always been hard for me to have immediate physical attraction just to physically being attractive. Like I want to have an interesting conversation. Okay, I want to have one interesting conversation. And usually the type of person that can have one interesting conversation is also someone who likes to have interesting conversations and is also someone who isn't interested in hookups. At least that's been my experience. And it's basically worked every time. I think I regret saying yes to an asshole and is completely separate from raping an unconscious woman. I think this article cooks in a lot of ways. I really don't understand why they're correlating regret and rape in that way. No, they're just talking about two different stories. The only reason it's not making sense is just because I'm skipping around a little bit. Why we acting? This is one-sided. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. This evil whore thought she could say a mean thing about men from her personal experiences, we should kill her. Yeah, I think we should burn her, honestly. I'm glad Twitch user JMang223 brought us to our senses. I'm so sorry. You're right. You're so right. True. Yeah. I think we should kill her with hammers. She dared to write an article talking about her friends being raped. Oh my God. So one-sided. You know, there's a lot of dudes that don't rape women. Okay. Oh gosh. Bro, what have you been cooking all stream? All stream, you've been cooking absolutely nothing. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe if guys and girls didn't cheat on each other, everything could change. Just break up first and then cheat an hour later. How hard is that? Cooking absolutely nothing. Incredible. Incredible. Great take, man. Great take. Good. Understandable. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Imagine there's no doubt. Imagine there's heaven. Some. Oh gosh. I still don't completely understand the thesis yet. So far, don't sleep with someone you don't actually know well if you want a long-term relationship. Seems like it would suffice. Not my mom was right. Same. I'm a bit confused what the point is. Besides, some people are assholes and rape is bad, and these maybe are a bit related. Well, I want to see what thesis she comes to. Sorry, I'm kind of like nerding. I'm kind of geeking right now. I'm kind of really interested in what thesis she's going to come to. But this is a guess, and it's totally plausible I'm wrong, but it's also totally plausible I'm right, because I've had a similar experience growing up in a Muslim household. And I think the thesis is like, my favorite misandrist that posts on Twitter, my favorite delusional misandrist that posts on Twitter, she made a tweet that said, sex doesn't stop being degrading because you waited till marriage. Sex is degrading. Sex with men is degrading when there is no mutual respect. And I think that line was kind of fire. Okay? Like that line was aptly spitting. And that we have wrongfully, as a society, in a way to protect women from the freaks of society that build their value off of sexual exploitation of women, we've decided the best way to protect them is to prevent them from having lots of negative experiences with lots of weird, gross men that will take advantage of you, that are not normal men, that are freaks, that should be studied and put in cages. I'm sorry. I'll say it. Yeah, if you try to have sex with someone who's sleeping, you are a freak. Like, you don't know this person. There's no mutual agreement. A random person. Like, you are a sick person and you should sit in jail. You should sit in jail. Like, yeah, like, you're not normal. There's something wrong with you. And we build these marital laws and this no sex before marriage society and this purity culture society as a way to protect women from these people, from these freaks. Okay? So please understand, when I'm talking about freaks, I'm talking about criminals and rapists that do exist. I'm obviously not talking about like average dudes. But the problem is, being married doesn't prevent you from sexual exploitation. It just prevents you from sexual exploitation from more than one man, hopefully. And we built our society the wrong way. Basically, it was a Band-Aid solution that we were supposed to remove and reapply, and we never removed and reapplied it. We never fixed the problem, which is, you know, getting men to stop raping, to stop being insane, you know, that we haven't fixed that population of men yet. That was the solution, is fixing that population of men. And of course, to be very clear, there are also women that are fucking disgusting. There are female pedophiles as a great example. Female teachers that are like, I just wanted to have sex with my minor student. It was love at first sight. Firecracker from whatever the fuck TV show Boys. Like, that person is real. Like, those are also freaks in society, to be very clear. We're just talking about men because the article is about a woman's experience as a femcel, and that most sexual violence is done by men. Not to say that the opposite doesn't exist, but just that this is a problem that is occurring on a much greater scale by this group of people. So we should probably try and fix the problems that are causing that. Marital rape wasn't even illegal until 1993. Yeah. Also, Elle, thank you for the 12 months. Zig, thank you so much for the 14 months. Polly IT Guy, thank you so much for the 14 months. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. The idea felt odd and boring. I wasn't religious, nor did I have my sights set on a diamond ring, so I wasn't scared of hell, nor a future puritanical husband. What are you waiting for? People would ask me, and I would ask myself as well. I didn't have the gall to admit that I was sort of waiting on my gut to tell me when. It felt like a cop-out. I knew gut feelings were wonky and moral compasses. After all, that semester we were reading Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in class. And I just have to say, by the way, the best reason to be an incel, the best reason to not have sex, is because you don't want to. Actually, this is the best reason to not have sex. The best reason. Like, I just haven't found anyone that I want to have sex with. This is it. This is what it is. I don't want to. Giga Chad. Yeah. Well, then that would be a Volcel. Yeah, true. Okay. My friends told me I'm probably just sexually repressed, or that I was molested as a child and I ought to take shrooms to unlock it, or that I'm just stiff or an overthinker, so I ought to chug a vat of vodka. And the thing that they told me the most was that there was never going to be a right time. This is so stupid. A lot of people are baffled by my choice to opt out. Everyone from acquaintances to podcast hosts will ask me, what's the point? Because my internet image already discredits my purity in their eyes, rendering my virginity useless. Or they'll mention that at my geriatric age of 24 years old, the attractiveness of my V card is slim to none. Sans activation account, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Thank you. Yo, high key, these friends suck ass. Like, straight up, these friends are dog shit. Finally, they'll tell me that there's no need to be a virgin because guys don't really care about virginity anymore. I've also witnessed podcasters debate in front of me whether my virginity is something that they're turned on about or not. Podcaster 1, I wouldn't date a virgin. That's like fucking a baby. Podcaster 2, so you want to date a girl that's already ran through? You're a fucking cuck. Podcaster 1, think about it. If you're a coach, do you want LeBron on your team or a guy who's never touched a basketball? Incredible. Real big brain ideas occurring on podcasts. As amusing as it is to be compared to babies and bench players, there might be a reason for a girl to opt out of having sex outside of the male gaze. I know that virgin has been reduced to little more than a lucrative porn category in the West, or the season 1 status of a teenage girl in TV, in which, by which she comes of age through fucking or sets herself apart as not like most girls. But the boring but true answer is that I'm a virgin because it just hasn't been the right time for me. Yes, even at my old age, much later than the sexy age of a teen virgin on the hub about to be railed, or a precocious nymphet in knee highs. Now estranged from the sex positivity I once adored, I do believe there is a right and wrong time to have sex. I also believe that your sexual footprint does affect you, for better or for worse, and I think a lot of girls are having sex at the wrong time. All these beliefs are fundamentally at odds with the principles of sex positivity, which beats any notion of right or wrong sex, other than via the consent yardstick. I feel like sex positivity has morphed into the same thing that like fat positivity has morphed into, and I feel like I subscribe to neutrality more. That there is no good or bad. There is what you want and how you want to live your life. That you're not better for this or worse for this, that it doesn't do anything positive or negative for you. And I've had this opinion about, for example, sex work for the longest time. Sex work is neither dehumanizing nor is it empowering. It's just work. It's just work. Same as any other type of work. There's a lot of jobs that most of us wouldn't want to do in here. Me personally, I don't want to work in a coal mine. I don't want to have coal lung. That is not for me personally. For a lot of people, sex work is not for them. They don't want to do sex work. They don't want their naked body on the internet for other people to see. That's fine. That's fair. That's your option. You should do what you want to do, right? Sex positivity teaches girls that their value is not defined by their virginity and that their first time doesn't change them. Sadly, they're throwing away the baby with the bathwater. Yes, virginity doesn't define your moral worth, but your first time does matter. And though I hate to quote my mother, it is different for men and women. Studies show that a man's first time has zero effect on his future interest levels in sex. A woman with a disappointing first time will tend to view sex negatively moving forward. That first time sets a blueprint for women for the sort of treatment they believe they deserve, and a culture that winds up girls to rip the Band-Aid off because it's no big deal, sets them up to have lowered morale, poor body image, and a heightened chance of facing intimate partner violence. If you give in to your first time, partly due to pressure, your brain can train itself to put up with brutish behavior. And it's no wonder why 40% of women regret how they lost their virginity beyond melancholy over their first time. A third of girls regret their most recent college hookup. 17% of women regret their most recent sexual experience, and 14% regret a sexual experience from that year. But we can't talk about female sexual regret without first discussing its abusive father, sexual coercion. 71% of teenage girls report feeling pressured by a romantic partner to have sex. 78% of college girls experience sexual coercion, and 35% feel pressure to have sex in their freshman year. And so the culture of high school and college, rather than serving as a fulfilling springboard for female development, tends to serve more as grounds for mass sexual arm twisting. Well, so someone else was talking about it in a way that I thought was very interesting. I was talking with a friend about basically the act of training pets and how you have to take Pavlov into account anytime you are training your pets to do anything. So yesterday I went to cut my cat's nails, Mayor Cat's nails, and I managed to cut like the first 2 sets of nails, no problem. And the third set, he was kind of fighting me a little bit, and I like kind of held him a little bit, and then he calmed down and I was able to cut them no problem. And then I gave him his usual treat afterward. And the reason he puts up with it, like I don't have to fight him most of the time. And if I do, it's for maybe 10 seconds and then he calms the fuck down again. Like I'm like, no, we're doing this. No. And then he's like, okay, fine, we're doing this. And if he tries to fight me for longer than 10 seconds, I just let him go. And then I try and grab him later and do that later. Because you can't do the thing in a way that traumatizes them or scares them, because then they never want to do it again. But if I always only cut his nails when he lets me cut his nails, and I only give him, and I always give him a tube, or I always give him a little fishy, a little freeze-dried minnow afterward, he will have a positive association with the experience. Even if he particularly doesn't want to have his nails cut by me, he knows that I'm not going to hurt him. He knows that he doesn't have to do it if he doesn't want to. And he knows that there's something fun at the end. Even if none of those are conscious thoughts and all of it is subconscious, if his mouth waters a little bit when I take out the nail clipper, that's working, right? Thank you, Arush. Thank you. So give the women yummy chocolates afterward. Got it. Within the same sort of logic, we were talking about how this was actually a completely different conversation, not about sexual experiences, but we were talking about how, I mean, human beings are as subject to Pavlovian experiences as animals are, right? Your Your pet won't let you cut their nails if every time you cut their nails, it's a terrible experience. They'll fight you every time. In the same way, if you had a bad experience with, like, let's say a video game. The first time you launch a game, let's say you launch Overwatch. The first time you launch Overwatch, you get in a game. And your experience is very negative. Like, everyone is talking in VC, telling you that you're a loser. You're going to have nothing in your life, no joy, no relationship. You will die alone. Everyone's flaming you, telling you to KYS, keep yourself safe. The barrier to entry to try and queue up for another game or to open that game again is going to be so much higher, right? It's going to be so much higher. Because you're not going to want to. It's like, oh man, even if you don't know why you don't want to play Overwatch, your brain knows that the last time you did it, you didn't have fun. And so your brain is trying to protect you, keep you from going back and installing League of Legends again. There's a YouTube video. There are YouTube videos of people conditioning their friends to a sound for their psychology classes. What the fuck? That's crazy. Within the same context, if you tell young girls, sex doesn't matter, your sexual experiences don't matter, rip the Band-Aid off, go get it over with, and then you're free of this burden. And now you don't have to care anymore. But the first experience, they kind of just go for anyone, and they have a terrible first experience. They're not going to want to go for it again. You're going to think about the negative experiences instead of enjoying the current experience. Because the first experience you had was so awful that it ruins your future experiences. It's trauma. So yeah, a society that tells women to just go rip the Band-Aid off actually does have bad outcomes, crazy enough, right? I know, crazy notion, right? Yep, who would have thought? She's misrepresenting sex positivity, though. She reduces it down to having sex is always good no matter what, which is not true. Well, no, she says sex positivity teaches girls that their value is not defined by virginity and that the first time doesn't change them. She says it right here. She doesn't define it as like sex is good no matter what. She defines it right here as this, but she says, namely, that there are caveats that need to be included with sex positivity, that you cannot just say sex does not define you, that your virginity does not define you. You have to add these other caveats that you are still a human being. You are still subject to experiences of trauma, and you are still subject to bad and positive conditioning. Right? And then she also puts the blame on the shitty men in society that cause these negative experiences. She says, we need to, the normalization without any caveats have made things like this acceptable. Coercion, etc. So actually, she's kind of spitting. I'm not reading all this other shit, though, for real, though. For real, though. It's too much. I don't think sex positivity precludes the fact that sexual coercion exists. No, it's that a lot of it is like an oversimplification. Like, you as a pedestrian have the right of way on the roads, right? If a car hits you and you didn't magically appear, that car is probably going to be at fault, right? The onus is on the driver because they have the potential to do so much more harm. And they should be aware and be practicing safe defensive driving. But we also tell kids, look both ways before you cross. Within the same context, we shouldn't just say, your virginity doesn't define you, your sexuality doesn't define you, how much sex you want to have doesn't define you, but you should look both ways before you cross. Have you watched Veritasm's video about people choosing more pain, a bit of excitement at the end of a bad experience, supposedly weighs it? But I don't know about like a first experience, though. First impressions are lasting, right? Just a pinch of nuance, yeah. Harm reduction, essentially, yeah. Okay, let's go back. Can I get the link of this? Yeah, sure, you go. Let's read like the last paragraph. "12% of women 20 to 24 haven't had any sex, which is an incredibly small number. There ought to be some sort of progressive cultural currency around being abstinent and more than just a 50 Shades fantasy of dominating an innocent girl." This last paragraph goes crazy. Okay. He just wants attention. He just wants attention, dude. That's it. That's all he wants. He just wants fucking attention, dude. Denim, stop banning them. They keep coming to the Discord and being annoying there. No. H0ef's fine. Thank you for the 42 months. Thank you. Ah. Actually, I took that off. Don't we all? Isn't that what we all want? Yeah, you're right. Raziel Prime, thank you for the 11 months. Okay, look, can we finish this video? Sorry for getting so lost in the sauce. I just wanted to... Noah Samsen recommended we read it, and I was curious, and I read it.
Mentions this movement and how it's contributing to South Korea's falling birth rate, while this article coming out of India highlights smashing the patriarchy and the largest gender pay gap in the developed world. H0math and I are coming at these stories from very different perspectives, which means we bring our own biases and audience perceptions. So I'm happy to be working with Ground News again on this video. Their app and website go out of their way to provide all sides of every story, which makes them a great sponsor for me. I also really like their blind spot feed. It gives you a breakdown of stories that are receiving little to no coverage from either side of the political spectrum. This feature helps keep your perspective broad and avoid getting too far into a political echo chamber. Check it out at ground.news/Noah. Subscribe through my link for 40% off unlimited
I got all my news from Twitch streamers. I don't need that.
access or scan this QR code. They're subscriber funded and ad free, which is awesome. Ads require clicks, which make it do sensational journalism. Ground News doesn't have that issue. And subscribing with my link helps to support the channel.
There really are a lot of fluctuations between feminine and masculine control of society, and if you get too far in either direction, things get bad. And the Islamic world went too far in this direction and had an overcorrection, and now they are still hanging out up here. Some of this even happened recently. This was Iran in the 70s, and so was this. They look like they're from Wisconsin. That was before the Iranian Revolution. And let's not forget Afghanistan, then and now.
Wait, okay, so Iran was under feminine control because of the restrictions loosened on dress. Feminine control. The matriarchy was installed. Wasn't there other shit going on in Iran aside from that? Yeah, it looks like there was other stuff going on.
This is fake. There was nothing else happening in Iran at that time.
Not necessarily the most historically accurate way to describe that.
This lie that the more feminist things get, the happier everyone's going to be, it just is not real life.
As far as I understand it, feminism was never about happy maxing. It was about choice maxing. It was about agency maxing, and in being granted the ability to make choices over things like voting and choosing who you date, not having an arranged marriage, not being sold off or whatever, which still happens. But when it became legal to like divorce, or when marital rape became illegal, I'm sure that made some people unhappy. Marital rapists, things like that. Probably not overjoyed to be imprisoned for doing a heinous crime that you thought it was okay to do and that the law said it was okay to do. But that's just sort of a consequence of the world changing, you know?
Hyper-feminization causes its own problems, and the reaction might not be fun.
This is some real sinister shit right here. You see that? He's threw in the clip of the not people ghost paper being put over the sub 5 guys. He's calling on them right now. He's saying, this is what they took from you. Your bride, your wife. You could have had it if they just didn't do what they want, which is to choose other people. And there's only a few ways to get it back, and certain areas of the world have done it successfully.
Also, here's the thing. If you're trying to build like a fair society, which I would hope that most people are trying to build a fair society, veil of ignorance and all that, Like, even if it made more people unhappy than happy to say, stop slavery in the United States, we're not happy maxing. We should be building a fair and just society, or trying our best to build a fair and just society. And if that means some slave owners get really mad and some white people get really mad and society becomes worse for them, too bad. Too fucking bad, dude. I don't know what to say to that. Like, fuck you. Those people deserve to have just as many rights as you do. Fuck you. Reducing harm is more important than improving everyone's happiness. In the context of this specific conversation. In the context of giving people rights.
What are these problems caused by glorious feminist freedom? Well, as women become liberated from men, which means getting materials that men produce without having to marry them.
Okay, what are you talking about? Dude, I love this fucking guy. I love H0math. If you're watching, you're my favorite YouTube channel. I'm subscribed. I'll join the Patreon. What the fuck is going on? Women be shopping, men be working, carrying the tax burden. What is this referencing, like divorce court law and like alimony and things? Why is the money going into the corporation and being given to her with there's no tax burden? Are you saying women don't pay taxes? What the fuck does this mean? The IRS did just start a new tax bracket. It's girl taxes.
Girl taxes and boy taxes. I mean, this shit just boils down to, like, you want something simple to blame your problems on, and YouTube lets you blame your problems on women, but it doesn't really let you explicitly blame your problems on the Jews anymore, or you get, like, demonetized. But you can still blame your problems on women, and that's fine. And that's why these channels exist. That's why these channels exist, because it's easy to have a scapegoat, right? My life is worse because women are having more sex all the time. It's not fair. Guys, we're not going to finish that video, unfortunately. Sorry. I actually have an appointment to get to. Not an appointment, but like I promised to grab lunch with someone in an hour, and it's like a 40-minute drive to get there. So I do have to go there, and I want to like shower, not be stinky and gross. Ugh.